Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm so excited to have this chat with you because I feel like we have been in each other's lives for a very long time. Like, I don't even know how long, my darling. Do you have any idea? Because I don't.
Well, I bought that house in Adelaide in 2012.
Oh my God.
So I've known you for at least not long after that.
Holy shit. So that could be anywhere between like what, 12 years we've known each other,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's a long time. So you've basically known me since like I was 30 and now I'm like 41.
Just after you got married, I remember. I remember hearing
Oh,
about
so
your
that was
wedding.
29.
I remember hearing
29.
about your wedding from your mother and father-in-law, but not knowing you until after that.
Wow. Okay. All right. So we've known each other a very long time. And I'm really excited to have you on the Creatress tapes because I give you so much credit for helping me heal my menstrual cycle naturally. Um, through obviously through really rigorous testing. Like I feel like I was getting nowhere with my GP. I was getting nowhere with the specialists that I was referred to. And like it was horrible. It was such a horrible time. I remember they were like putting me on the pill, taking me off the pill. Then they put me on the low dose pill, and that was fucking awful. And then I was like, nah, 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 I'm just coming off everything. And then we connected. And you became not only my osteo because you're a qualified osteo, but you're also a qualified naturopath and nutritionist. And so I was like, well, this is my new messiah. Hello, welcome into my life. But seriously, we work together so beautifully and just the care, like you care so deeply about what you do and who you look after. And I, you helped me so much. Like with you, I got my cycles in perfect rhythm. They were like clockwork. They still are. Like they still are to this day, apart from the old wackadoodle ones because of stress and life and hello, all the rest. Um, but I'm really excited to have this conversation with you because now we're both in a different stage of life. And I'm 41. Do you want to share your age bracket if you don't want to
I
share your
am. I
age?
am turning 49 next week.
Oh my God, that is hard to believe.
Next year
Look,
is my 50th.
all right, we're going to have a big party.
Yes.
Um, so we're in a very different stage of life now. And I'm so glad that we are not only reconnecting, but deepening our connection and having this conversation because like me, my friends, so many of the women in both our communities, um, we're all in this new stage of life now. And, you know, when our mothers were going through perimenopause and menopause, there's nothing available. Like there was nothing out there. No one was talking about it. It was almost like this shameful secret of like, you know, oh God, you just got to suffer in silence behind closed doors. And if you heard anything about it, it was like the worst thing to happen to a woman. Um,
Absolutely.
and I feel like where I want to start with you is I have just been really experiencing lately some shifts and changes in my physiology, like my physical appearance, just even mentally, emotionally. And it's really sad because, I mean, you know, I've always struggled with my body image and my self-image. And I'm really on a journey of really trying to, like, of self-love, you know. And I'm still catching myself having these horrible initial thoughts that pop into my mind when something that obviously is happening for me at this stage of my life and this age. And my immediate thought is, what's wrong with me?
Mm.
Am I crazy? Like, has something like misfired? Am I now like broken? And I really want to start there because I'm sure, like, you've probably, I mean, you've worked with so many clients in person, and now you've got this incredible wellness empire online that where you're supporting thousands of women, and you would have had this conversation a million times over. And so,
Yeah.
like, can you talk to us about that?
Yes. Do you know what? Nearly every woman that comes to me, they all say everything I used to do doesn't work anymore. And it's such a common thing that I hear because nothing does work the same. And it's okay. And we're not broken. It's just our body doing exactly what Mother Nature intended. We're going through a change because that's what happens. But there's nothing wrong. We don't need to question what's wrong with us. But you know what I really like to do, Sonia, is ask the question like, instead of saying, is there something wrong with us? What's wrong with me? What's going on here? Just think, what's the symptom that I'm experiencing and what can I do to get over that symptom, because there is an answer for everything. And there is an answer to feel amazing, as we always have been, um, with just a few little changes along the way.
Yeah, and that's what I love about you is you very much bring a holistic approach. Like you are very scientific in the way that, you know, you love your very appropriate testing where required so that you have the data and you have the numbers in front of you. And also, you are such an amazing wellness advocate in looking after yourself through nourishment with food and hydration and sleep and movement and all the like natural basic things that we know work but that we seem to drop the ball on as soon as things get hard or we get stressed or whatever the case may be. So that's why I'm really excited to talk to you about this because you do bring a holistic approach to all of this. And you know, something that I've seen you share before is you've said midlife is not a decline, it's a recalibration.
It 100% is. So can we go into a little bit of the science? Because you know I love the
Let's do it.
science.
Let's geek out for a minute. Talk
Because
nerdy to me.
this will help you understand why our body's recalibrating. So I have this beautiful graph that I always share with my clients, but let me see if I can verbalize it so everyone who's listening can kind of picture this graph. And so along one side, we've got our hormones, along the bottom, we've got our time, and we have our two main female hormones, estrogen and progesterone. And they have their own kind of patterns that they go through our reproductive years, where they're both a lot higher in our body. But before our reproductive years, when we're teenagers, our estrogen and our progesterone is lower, but it's going through some little wobbles, but more going from low to high as it wobbles up into our reproductive years. And then when we hit our perimenopause years, they start to wobble again, but they go down. So from high to low in our perimenopause years to be much lower in our menopause and postmenopausal years. So you can see why we can feel wobbly because our hormones are going up and down. And we can understand why, you know, those teenage years are really a little bit tumultuous with our emotions and moods and our bodies changing. And the same kind of stuff happens later on in perimenopause years, but in reverse almost. So I think that's a nice concept to think about why our body is changing and why our brain feels like it's changing. And but just knowing that there is so much that we can do and so much we can help ourselves feel better.
Yeah.
But the hormones that I always like to explain hormones too a little bit because they've got our estrogen, and it's good to understand what estrogen does because it does decline throughout. I like to say she does the decline during our perimenopause years to be lower in menopause, and she does give us a lot, but there's ways of keeping our estrogen and making our body not the same as it was in our reproductive years, but having enough estrogen to help us survive beautifully through to our end of life, be it hopefully 100, 90 and 100. But estrogen, she's like our queen hormone. So if you think of her as like rocket fuel for your brain, and she's responsible for giving us beautiful memory and sharp thinking and giving us lovely creative edge that we need to do the, beautiful writing that you do and create the online programs that I do and run businesses and all the things our listeners do. But when she wobbles in perimenopause, it's no wonder that we start to forget our words, or we, leave the keys somewhere and we can't find where they are, or we just get this kind of mental fogginess. So that's estrogen. She's our queen hormone. Then we've got progesterone. So think about her as like your body's natural Valium. So she calms our nervous system and she helps with sleep and she keeps anxiety in check. And you were just telling me before we started the call that you didn't sleep well last night. So it's probably a little bit of lower progesterone that keeps you that kind of racing and can't rest. But progesterone is the first to decline as we enter our 40s before estrogen starts to wobble. So it's no wonder we can find it hard to switch off. We can feel a bit wired. We can feel a bit more anxious. So it's all very good reasons that these things are happening. And then the trick is cortisol comes into play. So cortisol is our stress hormone. And if we're in more of this fight and flight place, cortisol rises. And that happens. Fight and flight happens in our nervous system just from being busy in life. So we've got to find ways to balance that busyness. But the problem with cortisol is it crashes that delicate balance between estrogen and progesterone. And so it can make all your symptoms feel worse. So cortisol can steal your focus, it can disrupt your sleep, it can tank your energy. So we really can support our own natural hormones, estrogen and progesterone, by supporting our cortisol to not rise so much. And that's where we can have a huge impact by supporting our nervous system, and it will help us transition so much more beautifully through perimenopause and into menopause. And then we have another whole side, which I'm happy to talk about too, but it's when we get into the blood sugars. So if we start skipping meals and if we start eating sugar on the run, like you just sugar, carbs quickly on the run, it pushes your cortisol up even further. And then that crashes your estrogen and progesterone balance even more. And all those kind of symptoms, those perimenopause symptoms will come back again.
Is that when we start hearing, because I've literally never heard this term until like this year when I'm obviously in this era of my life, insulin resistance.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, yes, that's a different thing again. Should I
Okay,
talk about that?
sure, let's go there.
So, insulin, okay, hang on. Let me think about, tell you, go back a step. So, when we eat food, right, we eat beautiful food, comes into our body, all those food molecules get broken down, get absorbed into our bloodstream as glucose, which is the very smallest molecule of all food, gets broken down to glucose and goes into our body, and that's our energy source for our cells and our muscles. Now, if glucose kept rising in our bloodstream when we eat food and it kept rising, 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 it becomes toxic at high levels in our body. So our body has a feedback mechanism, which is our pancreas releases a hormone called insulin. And insulin's job is to pull blood glucose down and put the glucose into the muscles and liver and everywhere we need it in our body for energy, into the cells. Now, insulin resistance is something that happens when the blood sugar levels rise, the body releases insulin, and the sugar levels don't drop fast enough. So the body becomes resistant to the effects of the insulin. Now, insulin resistance is much more common in perimenopause and menopause because our body's glucose metabolism changes. And so, one of the best things we can do is learn how to support our body to not go into those insulin resistance places, because that's where belly fat comes. And belly fat is a big common symptom of perimenopause. Um, However, it is absolutely beatable or get riddable of, or whatever you want to say. It really is because, and there's a lot of factors that come into it, but strength training is huge. So we can dig into that a bit more too if you want to. And it's really important to help. It just helps regulate the body's glucose metabolism to prevent that insulin resistance. And also, keeping our body in a very low inflammatory state. So an increase in inflammation will also go with an increase in insulin resistance. So keeping that inflammation low. But everything is so tied together. Like inflammation goes high when our stress hormones are high and that cortisol is high as well. So it's really not, I find this era of life is not just a one thing fixes everything. It's doing a little bit of everything, like a little bit of the right exercise, a little bit of supporting the blood glucose, a little bit of a lot of not a little bit of a lot of supporting our nervous system, and then we can really navigate this life phase with grace and ease.
Yeah, yeah, that makes so much sense. All of that, that is the best I've ever heard it explained ever. And I've already said to you, you need to write a book, and I will happily ghostwrite it for you. I will co-write it with you.
Yeah.
So, okay, so where I really want to go next, because as women, we are told all the time, reduce your stress, manage your stress, manage your stress. And it's like, well, that's a lovely sentiment, but I have a husband and other women have children and I have pets and I have work and a job. Like people have like, corporate jobs. I have my business and I'm juggling multiple contract clients and, blah, blah, blah. We're doing all the things, right? And so obviously the first port of call is supporting our nervous system because that is obviously then gonna, like you said, everything is interwoven. So when we support one thing, we're supporting the other things, inadvertently or as a byproduct. And so if we start with the nervous system, what are you, and like I would love for you to share like your favorite personal examples that you do in your own life because you are one of the most vibrant, vital women I've ever known in my life. And you take exquisite care of yourself. Like, I love that you take care of yourself like it's your full-time job because you have to walk your talk, right? If we're coming to you for this shit, like, you need to be the poster girl. And you are. Like, and it's so authentically you. Like, obviously, I've known you, I've lived with you, I have been your friend for a very long time and your client, patient, whatever you want to call me. Um, what do you do personally, and what have you seen in the thousands of women that you've supported? Like, if you could give us one or two, or maybe three things at the most, because let's not overload ourselves because we're already there. Um, Nervous system support. What works? What actually works,
Yeah.
and what's doable?
So I want to say that absolutely. I want to go back a tiny bit because it's interesting when everyone goes, you said stop stressing so much and just get over the stress and just stop stressing so much. And so the problem is a lot of us can't reduce the stress that's in our life. Like it just
No,
is,
and if you tell me that, it stresses me out even more because it's like
yeah.
I'm already struggling and now I can't manage my stress. So that means I'm even more of a failure. So now that's stressing me out even more.
Totally. Because we can't get rid of the job and we can't get rid of the children and the husband and the dogs and the pets. Like we don't want to anyway. But that stuff can't change. But what we can change is how our body responds to those stresses. And so it's like so many things in life. Don't try and change what you can't change, but change what you can change. And so there's a lot of things we can do to change how our body responds. Sometimes it's about having a big look at your life and seeing maybe that job isn't the right job for you in this moment in time. But maybe it's then working out ways when that job stresses you or whatever other thing stresses you, finding ways to support your body to let it not affect you so much. And so, I mean, for me personally, because you're asking my personal stuff, for me personally, when you and I were living together and we're both in Adelaide, it was when I was running my clinic. And that was a huge stress on my body. And I knew it was. I had a team of nearly 30 staff that I worked with over 2 or 3 locations at any given time. And seeing 16 patients a day. Like it was a big stress on my body. And the only way I managed to get through those 15 years of that high stress load from work was to support every other aspect of my body. And that was having a really good focus on exercise, always sleeping well. I stopped drinking alcohol. I ate really good food. And so I just managed those lifestyle and nutrition elements that I could that allowed me to get through. But I've had a big driving force on you, and you know my mum, and she was a breast cancer. She is a breast cancer survivor, and I always had in the back of my mind this stress is going to cause me cancer if I don't do something about it. And I don't want that for myself because I've seen what it's done for mum over the years and affected her health. And so one of the big things I did was make the decision to sell my practice. And so that's had a hugely positive impact on me and my life. Like I don't push myself so hard anymore. I don't have staff to manage anymore. I mean, I do. I have a lovely little team for my online team, but they don't cause me any stress whatsoever. So there's big things like the big stuff like that that we can possibly change. However, then there's so many little things that if we can't change our situation, we can change how our body responds. And the biggest one I really believe is exercise and nutrition. They're big, big, big important pieces. And the exercise is about, doesn't matter what it is to start with, it's about finding something you love and just doing something you love and just moving your body a little bit every day, be it walking on the beach or taking the dog for a walk or doing 10 squats or just something. But with the goal for us women in our perimenopause years is hopefully everyone would want to have that goal to build towards some strength training. And can we go on no, I'm not going to divert to another tangent, but I do have a tangent I want to talk about and share a really big win that I haven't even told you about yet, Sonia. So I want to
Oh,
share a win about that in a minute.
okay.
But the exercise, then nutrition, I go for two main focuses: eat real food and find the right anti-inflammatory diet for you, or not even diet, approach for you. And so eating real food is about turning the back of the packets over, and if there's any additives or preservatives or artificial colors, put it back on the shelf. And we want to have as much as we can whole foods from fruit and veggies and healthy proteins. And if it's in a packet, just make sure it sounds like all real food without those numbers on the back. And then the second piece is finding the right anti-inflammatory diet for you, because there are certain things that are perhaps healthy on paper that may not be right for you or different for me or different for someone else. And it's a little bit trickier to know that piece. But if you can eat real food, that has you 80% of the way there, and get rid of all the artificial ultra processed foods. And we can have a little bit of stuff if you want some chocolate or a cake or something when you're at a cafe occasionally, but it needs to be the 5 to 10% of your lifestyle and nutrition, not the I don't know, 30 to 40%. It needs to be just a tiny little bit. But finding that right anti-inflammatory nutrition approach for you is really something I take my clients through, and we do an elimination and a reintroduction. And in that way, we can work out what foods may or may not cause them inflammation. And if it does cause inflammation, we can help clients to see that they can have it like a little bit or a lot if it causes no inflammation, but if it causes a lot of inflammation, just having those foods on at
Yeah.
certain times.
And I've done that with you, obviously,
Yeah,
under your guidance. And that was so fascinating to do the elimination diet for however long I had to do it. I can't even remember now.
I can't
But
remember either.
no, but then you had me introduce like one new food each day. And then I had to get up the next morning, do a wee, take my clothes off, and weigh myself. And I can't believe this is burned in my memory. If I had gained more than 200 grams, it meant that that food was inflammatory to me. And
Yes.
I found that fascinating because I was like, if potatoes or avocado are inflammatory to me, I'm going to die. And thank God they weren't. It was fine. But it was such an interesting experience because I learned so much about my own body by doing that. But like, I did that in my 30s. And so now I'm into my 40s. Could that be completely different now to me for me?
Very, very possible. And there's one food group, and you're not going to like hearing this, Sonia. There is one food group that actually does present more problems as estrogen starts to drop, and it's a group of foods called histamines. And so histamine foods has avocado in there. So you're not going to like that. Um,
No.
So what happens when estrogen starts to drop down? Estrogen is a histamine liberator, so it helps our body break down histamine foods. And some women, not everyone, but some women then become less tolerant of histamine foods. And I can put my hand up and say, absolutely, that's been a big piece for me that's presented with perimenopause. And so it started with getting really bad migraines, which I'd never had before. And about age 45, I think they started. And it took me a while to figure it out. But I was able to then go, oh, what food did I have a couple of days beforehand? And it was usually after I'd had a little bit of a chocolate binge. So I'd had chocolate on a Saturday, and then I'd get these terrible migraines on a Monday. Figured that out, and I've really then been able to work out if as long as I keep my histamine load, I call it histamine load less, doesn't have to be none, but just less, then I don't get the migraines. And the minute I have something too much, I get the migraines again. And I was just telling you before, wasn't I, that I had one yesterday and I hadn't had one for quite a few months. But I am getting a little bit of hay fever from the Melbourne pollen. And I've noticed I've been sneezing a little bit and getting a little bit of popping in my sinuses. And so then 2 days ago, I had half an avocado. And then it ended up in a migraine yesterday. And I think my threshold is just lower at the moment, or higher, whichever way you want to describe it, because of that a little bit of irritation in my sinuses from hay fever. But this is the thing, like when you understand your body and you understand perimenopause and you understand the changes, you can not get worried or upset or anything about it. You go, oh, is this what it was? Okay, I won't do that again. Or I'll try and, try and avoid that next time. So there's so many things, like I said, there's an answer for everything as long as you know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really fascinating as well. And also, like, I know that, we've talked in our own conversations and stuff like that about, like it's not a lack of willpower, from us trying, like, and what we said at the very start of this conversation, what used to work doesn't work anymore, and that's not our fault. Like that is a physiological change that is taking place in our bodies, and that's just a reality. And I feel like it's the same thing with willpower as well. It's like it's not from lack of willpower or lack of trying. Like we are literally recalibrating into a new season of life. And what worked, like literally what worked before, maybe with exercise, equally may not work now because of these changes. And also, like what used to work with our diet, like the way we used to eat, maybe it doesn't work anymore now because of these changes that are
Yeah.
taking place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just being open to, I guess, learning about you and your body and this phase of life, and then
Yeah.
working out ways to navigate that. And you're saying about exercise, Son, that, we're talking about the cortisol piece, how it can really disrupt estrogen and progesterone. Well, in this stage of life, if we do too much cardio, it pushes our cortisol up too high. And so then too much cardio can disrupt your estrogen and progesterone. So 10 years ago, I might have been like, I want to go out for the weekend and I want to lose 1 kilo and wear that little black dress. And so I'd just like cut carbs for a couple of days and go for runs for 5 days and then I'd be fine. Like I'd be like, yep, I feel good. That doesn't work anymore because that just starts to push cortisol right up. And I have so many women son that come to me and go, doing everything right. Like I'm running 10Ks 4 times a week and I'm fasting until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm like, okay, stop that and stop that because both of those things are pushing your cortisol right up. And there's no way you will ever lose weight or reduce those perimenopause symptoms while you're running 10Ks 5 times a week and fasting till 1 o'clock. Like it's just doesn't compute anymore.
Yeah, yeah, it's so interesting. And I really do think that, like, you made me laugh when you explained that so beautifully when you explained the graph of the hormone changes. It is like we're going into reverse adolescence.
It
It's kind of
is.
like reverse adolescence. But yeah, exactly what you said is just like what used to work doesn't work for us anymore. And instead of trying to fight it or push through it, which I feel like don't even get me started on the phrase, oh, just push through.
No,
Um,
no, no.
it we now need to become our own best students,
Yeah.
like to really research and learn and pay attention to what's not working anymore. And this is actually a phrase I use a lot with my clients is when they can't work out what they want, we work out what they don't want first. And what I call that a reverse epiphany. So I almost feel like we need to have like a reverse epiphany of ourselves and our health and our well-being now, like what's not working, figure that out first. So then we can then move into what will work for us now
Yeah, yeah,
with
totally.
diet, with exercise, with all the things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that so much. And, I know personally for me, there are certain areas of my life that I feel like there's something wrong with me. Like I feel like I've been miswired in some way where I have, like, for example, I have a phenomenal work ethic, right? I am a hard worker. I devote myself. I am so like I'm not afraid to say it anymore. I'm great at what I do. I'm fucking amazing, right? And
You
also,
are.
yeah, and like I love it. I thrive. I know what I'm doing. I have a great work ethic. I'm also really like I feel like I'm very healthy when it comes to love. I have a 21-year relationship with my husband, which is based on unconditional love. I have phenomenal friends like you in my life. I've built this incredible support network around me. And yet, there are some aspects of my life that I feel like I just cannot get right. And for me, no matter how hard I try, I feel like I don't know what it is. Like, I can get started and then I can't stick with it. And I feel like this is probably true for a lot of women, and it's around diet and exercise. And I would love, like, because I know you are just like 100% all in, devoted to your health and wellness. And like, yeah, like I said, you are the poster woman of this. But for those of us that feel like, my gosh, I can't even get my exercise routine happening. I can't seem to like meal plan or meal prep or like stick with this like eating way that I know is so good for me. Like we know mentally and logically
Mm,
this stuff is so good for us, but it's
yeah.
always falling over. It's never sticking, it's never staying with us. What can you say to that to help us feel, first of all, feel a little bit better about ourselves, have a bit of
Yeah.
compassion for
Yeah.
ourselves, and then slowly, slowly, slowly start to steer the ship in the right direction?
Yeah. Do you know what I think is to not be so hard on yourself to think you're doing something wrong because you're not, but it's usually a rethinking, it's a mindset piece. And I have this with my clients all the time because a lot of the people that come to me, they have all the tools and, they've got recipes and they know that they should be doing this and they should be doing that and they should be doing this. However, and I was just absolutely chatting with a lady this morning on this exact same thing. And we did a little exercise I like to do with clients. And I asked why. So could I do this with you,
Oh my
son?
God, yeah, I wasn't expecting this, but okay, let's do it.
So you say you want to eat healthy and do exercise. Why?
Because I want to know what it feels like to feel my best. Because I don't think, like, if I'm being totally honest, I don't think I've ever in my entire life have felt what it feels like to be at my absolute best for a prolonged period of time.
And why do you want to feel your absolute best?
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. Fuck. Um, because I feel like I deserve it.
And why do you feel like you deserve it?
Oh my God. I'm not even going to be able to speak. I'm just going to be crying. Um, because I feel like, oh, that's a really hard question to answer, isn't it? Wow. Why do I feel like I deserve it? Because I feel like I have been so hard on myself my entire life. And I've tried so hard my entire life, but I just feel like I want to just like, oh, like relax the chokehold I have on myself to actually just be happy in who I am and comfortable in my body and just like really be my truest expression of me, which to me just is a relaxed woman.
Yeah. And why do you want to be your truest expression of you?
Because that's the purpose of life.
Yeah. There you go. So
Yeah.
you really need to live your health at best health because it lets you be who you are and lets you live your best purpose. Because otherwise, if you haven't got your best health, you can't be your best version of yourself and you can't live your purpose. And sorry for making you cry, darling.
That's okay. It's standard. I'm a crier, you know. Doesn't take much.
But isn't that powerful when you just think into what your deep why is? And for me, like I know this because I've done so much thinking about it, is really I see that the poor health that my mum has from having had cancer, and her cancer came from very high stress and really kept on pushing herself a lot and didn't do any self-care and self-nurturing, then to cancer and then to chemical sensitivities, and then she couldn't tolerate medications for osteoporosis that she developed, and now I see her at 76 with very bad osteoporosis and in pain every day and on endone every day, and my happy bubbly positive little mama bear is now just a really sad and in pain every day, and I've just kind of lost her essence of who she is, and I don't want that for me. Like
Yeah,
I want
same. I don't want to
I
lose my
want
spark.
yeah, I don't want to lose my spark, and I want to live the longest healthiest life possible so that I can keep doing all the things I love, which is seeing friends and travel and helping people. Like I want to do that for as long as possible, and if I don't look after my body, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that I think, I mean, and especially for you, like having the beautiful, very, very close and gorgeous connection you have with your adorable mum. I love your mum so much. She is like one of the most beautiful humans ever. Um, like having that happen to her, that would be so confronting for you as a woman, seeing like, I don't want that for my future. Like it,
Really.
it would have been, it's heartbreaking enough watching it happen to someone you love, and then knowing that potentially it could happen to you too. Like that's a huge, I feel like that's a really strong driving force. And, I know that we just broke down my core why. Um, I think I need to, oh God, I didn't mean to turn this into a therapy session about me, but I think I need to get to a place where I am reason enough. Because I
Yeah.
think if I was in your position and that was me with my mum and the relationship you guys have, like that would be a driver for me. Like that would be a really strong driving force for me. Whereas I don't have, first of all, I don't have that kind of relationship with my
Yeah.
mother. And secondly, like she doesn't have any kind of serious
Health
health
problem.
issues at the moment, touch wood, God willing. Um, so my core why is me and my best life and my truest essence. Um, I need to make myself just as important as I would make somebody else that I love that much in my life.
Yeah, you do.
Mm.
We do. We all need to put ourselves as number one. And that's the problem with so many women. They put children and husbands and families and work before themselves. And it's also very easy to say, like, got to look after yourself before you look after everyone else. Like, it's so easy to say, it's hard to action and hard to do. But it is a change that women have to make and
Yeah.
really have to, if they can look after themselves, then they can look after others better. And we are caregivers. Like, that's part of our role in society.
Mhm.
Most of the time, it's often comes down to the women. And so we have to look after ourselves in order to help the love people we love.
And I think that our generation in particular, like this, we are the pioneers of this.
Mm.
because our grandmothers didn't do this, our mothers didn't do this. We are like, like there's no way in hell our mums would have had the opportunity to listen to conversations about perimenopause,
No.
like in this open forum, and so, but yet here we are sitting on Zoom together having this conversation that's going to be broadcast for people to discover and listen to wherever, whenever. And we are at we are the pioneer of this for our generation. And I think as well, it's just like this whole complete, like we have to dismantle this societal conditioning and this expectation that we as women never put ourselves first. Because if you put yourself first as a woman, you're selfish.
Yeah.
And selfish is the worst thing you could be.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And
you're
that's,
actually not selfish. You're being unselfish to put
yeah.
yourself first because then you can be more and better and everything you need to be for the people you love.
Yeah. Because like I know we've all been fed that, Pinterest quote, self-care isn't selfish. And I know that you say like self-compassion isn't indulgence, it's stress regulation. Um, I feel like we need so many of these reframes. We need to keep like reframing this constantly. I feel like I need to write this on my bathroom mirror just to kind of like rewire my brain to think that like I need to be reason enough to do this stuff for myself. Like I
Mhm.
need to be the reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're talking about nutrition being one of the big reasons. Then we're talking about exercise, which we've mostly talked about. But I want to, because we're talking about my mum, I just want to share that win I alluded to before. So unfortunately, Medicare in Australia doesn't give us Medicare covered DEXA scan until we're 70. So a DEXA scan is a scan that records your bone density. And there's a certain score that we want to be above so that we're not osteopenic, which is kind of the step before osteoporosis. And so I decided to go and pay for one anyway out of my pocket, which is not that expensive. It was about $150. So I did the first one a year and a half ago. And I was pretty good. Like I was above the level of where you need to be and in a healthy range. But what was important to me is what's changed. I want to see if it's going down, if it's staying the same, if it's going up. So just a couple of weeks ago, I did another one and I got the results back this week and I compared the two. And what is important to me too is that I have been really determined since January this year. I've been doing full strength training in a gym, going to a gym called the Iron Viking Gym. So you can just imagine
Oh
what
my
it's
God,
like.
that sounds like the complete opposite of you. Like you are like this beautiful dancer who is like pink and purple and feminine and delightful. And it's like I go to the Iron Viking gym.
I go to the Iron Viking Gym and I hang out with the Viking men. And I do my workout. Anyway, I've been going consistently since January, so 2 or 3 times a week. I aim for three, sometimes I get two. Really consistent with it. And I am now like so proud of myself. I'm leg pressing. I got a personal best today, 140 kilos. What is my other? I'm now Romanian deadlifting 55 kilos. Like, so this is big because have also come out of a back injury. So this is really exciting. But what was even better is that I got my DEXA scan done, compared them, and my bone density hasn't just stayed the same. And I'm in menopause, like I am. I have a year without periods, and then I got one random one. But it's been like another, 5 months since then. But all my hormone levels are like, yes, you're in menopause. So technically, my estrogen is declining, and it absolutely is. And technically, that means you would lose bone mass and bone density, sorry. And so not only have I not just stayed the same, I have improved my bone density. And so like that was a such a bigger win. And that's the kind of number that I want to measure. I don't want to measure weight or even measurements around my tummy because we do change a little bit with all of that as we go. I want to measure things like that. I want to measure my body composition, like bone, lean muscle versus fat, and I want to measure my bone density. And all of those I know have increased because we've got a scanner at the gym that tells you bone and muscle and fat. But this one about the DEXA scan, the bone density, I'm so proud of myself.
You should be so proud. That's incredible. Oh my
Yeah.
God. And like what I love though is I was going to ask you this as a follow-up question, but you already said it, is like you've just been going to the gym 2 to 3 times a week to lift weights. It's not like you've been in the gym 5, 6 days a week doing hectic weightlifting training. It is 2 to 3 times a week of strength training and gradually building it up over time. That,
Yeah, gradually building the weights up. So I had to
yeah,
start very light with the weights because of my back injury. And then at the gym I go to, we talk about something called progressive overload, which is a very common thing that people are talking about. And this is what we should be doing as women, that we start at a certain weight. You can't go into like Romanian deadlifting 55 kilos, you'll hurt yourself, but you come in at like a low amount. And then each time at my gym, I'm always trying to go up by a quarter or a half or 1 kilo on everything I've been doing. And then your body gets stronger from that and can keep progressing. And then you end up with better bone density.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That is absolutely awesome. I'm so thrilled for you because I know how much this means to you.
Yeah.
And that is like this is exactly what you just said is like we need to rewrite our goals to be in alignment with what we desire for ourselves. And you obviously like that's a number that matters to you. And obviously you want to feel fit and strong and healthy and vital and vibrant. And they're your personal markers of
Yeah.
success, and how you're measuring them are very unique and personal to you. And I think again it's like, okay, so these are almost like our little personal projects we need to have for ourselves. It's like, all right, let's look at and let's learn what's not working. Let's look at and let's learn about what is working. And then let's set some new benchmarks. Let's set some new
Yeah.
goalposts for ourselves in this season of our life, so that we can feel like we're winning. So we can feel like we're a success, that we're doing well, we're taking care of ourselves beautifully, like we're doing all the right things and they're actually working.
And it may not be like so many of us get stuck on the scale. It may not be the scale. In fact, it shouldn't be the scale. It might be your cholesterol levels. It might be your vitamin D levels. It might be your liver enzymes. It might be some of those beautiful functional blood tests and functional tests you can get done to show you how your health is on the inside. And it might be how much energy you feel like you have every day. And some of these other markers, like I just talked about with bone density, like some of those really good health markers should be what we're going for, I think.
I agree. I totally agree with you. And I'm so glad we've had this conversation because you've literally just rewired something in my brain today. And there's one last thing I really do want to touch on, which, you shared with me that you have encountered or you've come across some research that women with higher self-compassion are more consistent with healthy habits. And I would love, like, without delving into the research, because I'm not a science person, I'm not maths and science, you know that about me. If you could explain it to me in plain English, what was it about that research that really spoke to you, and what can we take from it?
Yeah, so healthy habits, having little things that are very easy to do, but also very easy not to do, is really what helps us have our best health over the long run. And like we're talking about right at the start of the conversation, it's not one thing that's going to fix everything, but it's lots of little things done consistently every day that has a positive impact over time. That whole thing I spoke about there comes from a book I love, if anyone wants to read, called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, that I recommend to all of my clients. And it's just a great message to think that you don't have to be perfect all the time, and it doesn't have to be huge, the things that you do and change, but if they're little tiny things done consistently over time, take you on a positive trajectory. And little tiny things, if you don't do them, you don't notice on day one or day two, but over time can have a negative effect on your body and your health. And so it really comes down to the people that are able to maintain the healthy habits, believe in themselves, and they want to do these things for themselves. And it comes from that state of really loving yourself. Yeah, that's where it really all comes back to. And yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because self-compassion is such a thing we all have to work hard at. It's not something that is just given to us on a plate. If it isn't there inherently, we have to work on that. But I really think it's like a circle. We look after ourselves more, we feel better about ourselves, we have better energy, and then we can love ourselves more. And then it keeps compounding on itself over and over again. And
Yeah.
it's just about getting into that circle somewhere. And maybe getting into that circle is going for a walk on the beach rather than laying on the couch and watching Netflix, like just those tiny little things.
Yeah.
And it starts to make you feel better, and then you feel better, and you've got more power to do more again for your health.
Yeah, it's like I always like to say to my clients is, when they want to do something, I always ask them, okay, well, what's the path of least resistance to that thing. Meaning, what's the simplest, easiest way to do it that just comes naturally to you?
Yeah.
And so, oh my God, I'm just having an epiphany. It's like literally like that saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So it's like if I can apply that to my business or social media or whatever the case may be, or my writing or whatever, then surely I can apply that to like cracking into that circle. Like you said, finding
Yeah.
that starting point of that circle is like, okay, cool. So, what is my path of least resistance right now in this moment for exercise? What is my path of least resistance right now for nutrition, hydration, sleep,
Yeah.
looking after my nervous system? Yeah, like that's what no one's talking about though in the freaking health and wellness industry. They're just trying to sell us. And don't even get me started because I listened to a podcast recently where they were talking about the next big frontier for big pharma to start commoditizing and commercializing is perimenopause and menopause, just making up shit that women have to take, for us to like get through perimenopause and menopause. And already I'm being dished up freaking Instagram ads for like berberine and this greens powder and that powder because that's going to like get rid of my belly fat and that's going to help me with this and that and that. And I'm like, ugh, just get out of my feed. And I'm
Yeah.
having to exercise extreme like strength to not click on those ads because I only believe that you should everything you need should really be able to come through food and
Yeah.
hydration and like exercise and all those things. And then if you really do need a supplement, then you get the correct medical advice on that through someone like yourself, which is very specific and tailored to you, not whatever Elle Macpherson is doing. Like, who gives a fuck? That's her. And so
100%.
yeah, I love that you have shared this with us because no one is talking about this. They want us all on the hamster wheel of buying the next product, buying the next supplement, buying the next meal plan, like the one size fits all cookie cutter approach, which doesn't work. So if we can ask ourselves, like, what can work for me right now? What is my path of least resistance to doing this thing for myself? That gets us started. And like
Yeah.
you said, it's like the small, tiny little habits that we can do every day that then gives us that feedback. It gives us that evidence. Like, I can do this. I'm doing this. And oh, yeah, I am feeling a little bit better. Oh, maybe I'm sleeping 5% better. Maybe I'm feeling 3% clearer headed. Like, all those little things. Maybe my energy is 10% better. Oh, I'm going to keep at this. Or maybe now I feel like I can kick it up a gear just ever so slightly and like really kind of like following that circle around and around and around in our own way at our own pace, very uniquely tailored to ourselves. Oh my God, thank you. This has just been an absolute freaking breakthrough for me. And I hope it's been a breakthrough for at least one other person listening to
I
this.
hope so too. But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
thing, the thing is, there's nothing wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with our biology. It's like where we started at the start of the conversation. Like it's Mother Nature has our back. If we look after ourselves in the right way, our body can do everything it's designed to do. We can go on to live beautiful, long, healthy lives. And like you've said too, Son, in my feed, it's all HRT at the moment. HRT, HRT, HRT. And for some people, maybe that is the answer, but it's not something that I want to jump into as a first step. And for me, like that DEXA scan, pre and post, if my DEXA scan was going negative and down, I might think about it because that's something that I don't want to have is osteoporosis. So maybe that's something I would have thought about, but it's not because I can do other things to get it there. And most of us can do other things to get us there. And nearly every woman I've had in my program, we can eliminate most of their symptoms in most cases by nutrition and lifestyle changes. And you asked me a question right at the start, which I didn't actually answer properly because you said, give me 3 tips for nervous system support
Oh,
and
even
how.
just one or two is fine.
But one of the best things is just using your breath.
Yeah.
And we talk about box breathing many times. You and I have probably talked about that before, but it's like taking a big breath in for 5 counts, holding at the top for 5 counts, breathing out for 5 counts, and holding at the bottom for 5 counts and doing that 5 times. And what that does is it instantly takes you out of that sympathetic nervous system dominance, which is your fight and flight nervous system. And in 90 seconds of doing that, it puts you into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest, relax, digest nervous system. And it's amazing how much that can change your physiology in just 90 seconds. Pulls your cortisol right down, gets you, and as we talked about earlier, when cortisol is high, imbalances your estrogen, progesterone. So straight away, by doing some breath work, you're not only supporting your nervous system, but you're supporting your hormones as well. Last night I had did some late exercise. Other than the gym, I love playing paddle tennis. That's my other hobby. Had a late game, and when I got to bed, I felt a little bit wired still. So I just did my box breathing, and I don't even remember getting to 5, and I was asleep. Like, it's such a beautiful thing to do. So we've got exercise, we've got nutrition, and the nutrition we talked about, not eating processed foods and just finding that right anti-inflammatory diet for you. And then we've got some breath work, which is a lovely little thing. And then rest is really, really important. And it's much more important in our 40s than it ever was in our 30s. Like, we were able to push, 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 push. And now, and I'm definitely on the receiving end of understanding how important rest is, because I'm someone who doesn't like to rest very much. I like to do as many things as I possibly can in 24 hours in a day. But it's so important. So now I have conscious days of no exercise to make sure my body recovers. Um, and as much as I don't like it when I'm at the gym, I would like to just go boom, 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 superset everything, get it all done. I do stop and I do a little bit of a scroll on social media while I'm just sitting there waiting for the time to tick down so that I can lift the next lot of weights again. But, it's little rests like that, but it's big rests of having time away. Like, Mike and I saw you last weekend. We went up to Byron Bay and had a resting weekend. And it was so soul giving, and it was just wonderful to be able to have that rest time. So it's really about intentionally factoring in rest as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I think there's a big piece there around reframing rest, not as lazy, but as something actually productive to do for
Yeah.
ourselves and our health and well-being for sure. All right, I think that's a really beautiful note to end on. And I do have just one last question to ask you, which I'm asking every guest on the Creatress tapes, because obviously this podcast is called the Creatress tapes. And the reason is that I believe that there is a creatress within all of us as women. And I would love to know if there, let's say there's a woman listening right now who, as women, we are inherently designed to create, whatever that may be, whether it's a family, a business, whatever. Um, if there's a woman listening who really wants to tap into her creatress essence, just that little bit more, and bring her out, bring her forward, just that little bit more, what would you most want her to know?
That's a hard one. What would I most want her to know to help her find her essence? I would most want her to know it's all within herself. She has everything she needs inside. And if she looks after herself as she would look after a best friend, then it will all come out in the right way it's meant to come out.
Oof, I love that. I love that so much. That was perfect. Thank you so much, my darling. I loved this chat so much, and I know it's going to serve so many women listening to it as well. I'm so grateful for your generosity. You are always just the best, and thank you.
Thank you, darling.